Now, there's a lot of interest in those COVID-19 numbers again in this country, isn't there? Suddenly, with a bit of a tick up in Victoria, people are talking about a second wave. The same people who were panicked and alarmist in March and then went all sort of surly and quiet when we crushed the infection curve are now getting all panicked and alarmed again. How can Australia have a second wave when it didn't really have a first wave? People need to chill. As much as I think Chairman Dan there in Victoria deserves some political pain for allowing those protests to go ahead, and yes, they produced a handful of new cases as well, you can't play politics with this stuff. There is no cause for hysteria in Victoria or anywhere else in the country. We're seeing an overreaction already. Now, we were right to be worried in March, yes, but we got on top of it quickly. Remember, it was all about not overwhelming our health system, so we expanded the nation's critical care bed capacity from just over 2,000 beds to more than 7,000. We've never needed more than about 100 of those for the coronavirus pandemic on any given day right at the peak. Currently, there are just 2. That's right, just 2 people in critical care because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So sure, let's be vigilant. Let's trace infections and not let the virus run amok. But Victoria had many days with more than 50 new cases a day, up to 80, 90, and on March the 28th had 111 new cases. Today, the so-called spike is 11 new cases. Take out those that have come from overseas into quarantine and it's less than 10 new cases in single figures. Hard to call that a spike. Australia had days back in March where we topped more than 400 infections in one day. Even that was far from catastrophic, of course. It was the trajectory that was the worry. Today, the national tally of new cases is about 1 infection for every 2 million people. It just happens that most of them are in one state at the moment. And these aren't serious cases or hospitalised cases. This is 1 infection per 2 million people, and 99% of cases are mild. But sadly, perhaps predictably, the latest cases have already got the hard borders brigade digging in.
But I think it's something that we all need to look at in terms of what is happening in Victoria. The fact that the AHPPC is obviously concerned about this means that I think everyone should be. And, you know, whatever assistance we can all give to Victoria, we should, because it is absolutely crucial that we don't want to see a second wave.
I had planned to announce a tentative date for the removal of WA's hard border as part of our roadmap today. However, with the situation evolving in Victoria, based on our health advice, we've decided to put that on hold.
Come on, let's get a grip here. This pandemic might continue globally for years. There might be no vaccine. If Australia can keep daily infections to 20 or so in whichever state, if we can keep them to 100 or 200 nationally each day, that's 1 or 2 serious cases a day, we'll be doing brilliantly well. The world will continue to be envious of Australia. The task is just to keep a lid on it, to not lose control. And that's why extra tracing teams helping out Victoria is a good idea. The virus is going to be with us for a very long time. Let's not lead the news with every case and get carried away with state border blocks and all the rest of it. It's our quarantined international borders that are our biggest safeguard.
We said there would be bumps along the road. We said there would not be 0 cases. We said there would be outbreaks. So the fact that there are outbreaks should not come as a surprise. This is a COVID-19 pandemic that is intensifying around the world, and Australia still remains, by a very long stretch, in a very, very, very good position.
And while New South Wales Premier Gladys Berejiklian sounded overly cautious, telling people if they didn't need to go to Melbourne, perhaps they should reconsider their plans, she's not doing anything silly like closing borders. She's doing what is sensible.
Can I thank, in particular, the more than 8,800 people that came forward and got tested in New South Wales in the last 24 hours. That is a fantastic rate of testing for a weekend.
Yes, testing, tracing, sensible social distancing, keeping on top of outbreaks. That's the proven path. Unless, of course, you happen to be the leader of the free world.
We've tested now 25 million people. When you do testing to that extent, you're going to find more people, you're going to find more cases. So I said to my people, slow the testing down, please.
Yep, Donald Trump doesn't want to know the bad news. He's against testing, which for one brief moment at least makes him sound a bit like he's a representative of the teachers' union. No, seriously, more coronavirus testing will turn up more cases. Of course, that's the idea, Mr. President. And yes, 99% of those cases will be mild. But surely the best way to deal with this virus is to know exactly what's going on. Stopping the testing, covering your eyes and pretending it will go away, that is plain nuts.